The province of Ontario has a system to ensure that polluters pay to clean up their own messes. How well is it working? Environmental lawyer turned Environmental Commissioner of Ontario, Dianne Saxe, joins us now for her take on it. Okay, explain to us what you mean when you say that we've got bad public policy at the moment in terms of who pays to clean up whatever messes happen, environmentally speaking.
The problem is precisely what you just referred to. Polluters paying for their own messes, that's no problem. The challenge that we have is in many cases in Ontario, the polluter is no longer around. Sometimes the pollution happened many decades ago. The polluter may be dead, the company may be bankrupt. And then the question is, who should pay? The province of Ontario has gone farther than any other jurisdiction I know in picking innocent people and making them pay.
Picking innocent people?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, the province has decided that their priority is to have contaminated sites cleaned up really at any moral cost. Anyone that they can force to pay, regardless of fault, they consider that appropriate, and that's what they're doing. So let me give you an example.
Sure.
We have a case going on right now in Ontario where a very ordinary industrial piece of land lay vacant for a while. It was owned by a company in England. The tenant, Canadian tenant, went bankrupt.
Can you say where it is?
In Fort Erie.
Fort Erie, okay.
So the site was vacant for a while, and the English owner of the company said, all right, well, it's time to sell the land. From the evidence produced by the ministry that I've seen, no evidence that the owner did anything wrong. No evidence that he knew there was anything wrong with the property. So he decides to sell it. He contacts an accountant in Ontario and asks the accountant to arrange for the property to be sold. Gives the accountant a power of attorney. The accountant then contacts a local real estate brokerage. The real estate brokerage puts a sign on the property.
For sale?
For sale. So far, nobody's done anything wrong. Property turns out to be contaminated. Ministry of the Environment then comes and issues an order, an unlimited cleanup cost order to the English owner. Okay, well, you know, there's some arguments for the current owner. The director of the English owner, the accountant, the real estate brokerage, and the officers and directors personally of the real estate brokerage because they took the listing.
They're all on the hook to clean it up?
That's what the ministry says.
And who thinks this is a smart thing to do?
Well, the Ministry of Environment does. Their justification is, well, we want someone to pay, and we can make people pay if they've had some connection to the property, and it's regardless of fault. Another example we've had very recently, a property owner, again, it wasn't the owner who contaminated the property, as far as we can see from the evidence that I've seen in the decisions, but the owner didn't speak very good English. So he asked his accountant, who did speak English, to speak for him with the Ministry of Environment and with the consultants. And the ministry used that as their basis for ordering the accountant to pay for the cleanup.
Okay, you clearly think this is ridiculous.
I do. I think that all laws have to have a fundamental moral basis.
So what's a better alternative?
Well, we have to have a plan. We have to have an honest way of saying there are all these sites where the polluter is no longer around. In many cases, a contamination occurred because of lax government regulation. How are we going to do this? And it should be open and it should be honest, and we should tell people in advance rather than be getting trapped retroactively after having done perfectly normal, appropriate activities and just randomly getting stuck with a multi-million-dollar personal bill.
Should the taxpayer be picking up the cost of cleaning up these sites?
Sometimes. If there's a public health threat, I think sometimes there is a justification for that. The whole point of the Superfund in the U.S. was to build up a fund to pay for exactly this sort of thing.
Has that worked?
It's worked quite well.
So do we need a Superfund in Ontario?
We need a plan and a policy. I'm not saying yet what these, I haven't looked at this in my capacity as commissioner. All I can say is that what we're doing now is driving investment out of Ontario. When you treat people, innocent people, arbitrarily, very, very harshly, the word gets around. And I personally know of 8-figure investments that have walked out of Ontario because of this.
For example?
I can't tell you.
But you know of...
Oh, absolutely. Major investors.
Like if somebody wanted to put $10 million or more into the province of Ontario.
Much more than that, yes. Because as a lawyer, it's my obligation to say to them, this is the rule here. Whether or not you're at fault, no matter how careful you are, no matter how much you've done right, it is the position of this province that if you are the officer or director of a corporation that has owned or occupied land, and they want some money spent relating to that land, they have the right to go after you until you die, with no financial limit, no time limit, no factual nexus, and no fault.
Have you talked to anybody at the Government of Ontario about this?
I have.
The Environment Minister, perchance?
I've talked to a number of people at the government, and so far they haven't changed their position, but perhaps when they listen to you, they will.
Well, they're listening to you.
It needs to change. It's deeply immoral, and it's counterproductive. It's corrosive to the social contract, and it discourages investment in Ontario. It's a bad plan.
Dianne Saxe, thanks for this.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit supporttvo.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.